Hi, and welcome to the September first virtual reading featuring Tim Suermondt and Pui Ying Wang. And if you are not one of those two features, I would appreciate if you would mute yourself. Thanks so much. I will introduce our first reader, Pui Ying Wang. If I can find the bio, just a second. Pui Ying Wang is the author of Fan Ling in October from Barrow Street Press in 2023 and three other poetry collections, The Feast, An Immigrant's Winter, and Yellow Plum Season, along with two chapbooks, Sonnet for a New Country and Mementos. She has received a Pushcart Prize. Her poems have appeared in many journals, including Plowshares, Prairie Schooner, Plume, Chautauqua, Chicago Quarterly Review, New Letters, Zone 3, and others. Born in Hong Kong, she now lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with her husband, the poet Tim Suermondt. Take it away, Pui.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Robbi, and thank you for all of you who are here today. Really a pleasure to be reading to you all. So, does my sound come across okay?
Great.
Okay, great. Okay, so as Robbi said, last year I published two books of poetry, and that really has to do with one book was heavily delayed and the other caught up. So I wind up having two books in the same year. So I'll be reading a couple of poems from each and then other new work. Just to talk a little bit about my poems, that my poems are drawn a lot from observation, and I'm also very interested in places that I've been in, and I like to write about them, whether I visit or I live in. And the first two poem is one, is situated in one such place. It's in a little village called Auverlot in southwest France, where I spent a little time there for a writer residency. It's a pretty little village, has about 1,000 people in it, and the river Garonne runs through the village. And the story goes that the families there had during the war, World War II, they hid escapees from the Nazis. So there's a lot of interesting history and really left an impression on me. So I'll start with this poem. It's from my book, The Feast. It's called The Muse of Avila. For so long you hide from me, as if I have to prove myself still as River Garonne at dusk, where a field of poplars perfectly drowned. Monkish as rue obscure, where scores of stones round out my steps in search of. Walls holding history's scars, boots, whistles, nervous ticks, the silence after roars of army jeeps. Now the mewing of a gray cat called Camille. Always for the first time, a kiss sings behind the village shadow, whiff of milk, breath on an infant. Red poppies. The poppies enclosed in the buds tremble when we walk past, inside a flame. Roadside roses droop from their own weight, extravagant beauty, but we are greedy for more. I remember what Francois said in her email after the bombing. What else can we do but work for peace, friendship, beauty? So, um, early in June, my husband Tim and I had visited Berlin, and it's my first time ever there. And obviously, it left an impression on me and inspired on this poem. And it has three segments, and the last segment of this poem has a line from this German Jewish poet, Gertrude Kolmer, in it. She was born in Berlin and her family's there, and she was arrested and sent to Auschwitz, during the war. And I didn't know anything about her, but seeing her poem, her little poem, at the memorial for the murdered Jews really struck me and moved me. So here is a poem that would appear in the later part of this poem. But here's the poem, A Little Berlin in June. Tiergarten. In the former hunting grounds, overfed dogs trace scents left by the tourists. The Russian soldier monument imposes like war itself, but is only a statue. A boy fishes in the drizzle. Our gaze follow the algae, glazing the pond to a fable green. Unter the Linden. A makeshift tribute for Ukraine. A candle burns high for Nawali. A photograph of him looking at us looking. Soccer fans swarm past. Their colorful jerseys resemble a nation's flag. We don't know whose, but a hopeful moment leaves. Only night listens. Gertrude Koma. She was already a poet before the Gestapo found her. She wrote of her murdered people, desire, despair, and love. A gray day, small crowds, stark words on the memorial, voices rattle in a hollow, dirty rain pattering on the slabs. So after many years in Brooklyn, I now live in a little city called Cambridge in Massachusetts. And it's separated from Boston by a river, River Charles. And I often take walks there with Tim. And here are two poems from the walks. One is called Staying Put. Late summer, burnt smoke arrived from California wildfires and hung above River Charles. Birds standing still in the trees as if unsure where to land next. The air took on the color of exit paper where poems that once shone recede into oblivion. Past the canal, a banner stretching across a new office park reads, "The most innovative place on earth." We went home to hear about the terrible floods from Queens to Tennessee, and the talk host warning us it's time to put together a go bag. Like the wind. The wind blows across the river, a whiff of pine, maybe as far as Canada. The man with the rusty shopping cart is at the bench again, chasing away a cadre of pigeons. I watch him from a safe distance, separate from a sway of green mulch and hollyhocks. Call him homeless and I'll be wrong, but unhoused does not tell about someone who's exiled himself from himself. Now the pissed-off pigeons are having fits. Now the man cracks a smile. The question is not who he once was or how he got here. He's not traceable like the wind. Rather, if he's done looking back, will memory go out of its way looking for him? So I was born in the city of Hong Kong, and which is a place that had really a special meaning to me. But in the last few years, it has really radically changed. And now it is run by a government that cannot tolerate dissent. So I have written a number of poems about Hong Kong, and this one is a newer one, it's a sequence. So I'm only going to read the first segment in this poem. And in this poem, I use two Cantonese words. One is cha chan tang, which means diner. The other is po which is a name of a tea. So here is the poem called The Terminus. There's always the odor, the surface sea, foghorns that rattle sleep. The city struts off neon lights and backroom deals to a hazy morning. The terminal is bloated with double-decker buses, students in queues, back-bending book bags, same black and white loafers, the faces not quite hardened, but already their eyes learn to see and not see. Tight-suited office workers fingering their phones will soon mark time logging in, logging out, numbers, contents, codes, that language of no one's. Lunch at Cha Chan Tang, eating so fast nobody talks. Besides, the revolution is over. Black shirts burned to eclipse in secret burials. Now, over a plate of pork and rice and fried eggs, there's no looking back. Keep the head low, poke the yolk open, wash everything down with a few black gobs of pu'er. Here's a poem called My Cousin Professor X. She has that look of an intellectual, wears thick glasses, and favors mouth suits. She loves a woman who used to be a man and is the age of her son. They live in a university town in a dormitory for students. They have no trouble with the neighbors. She is an authority on human intimacy. She is older than her government. Her country considers her subversive, but tolerate her talks on sex, gender, and age matters as mere fetishes. But not when she said, in the face of love, she bows to love. Stone ladder. We eat oranges and a roll with jam. It's the same world, still blank and semi-dark. Yesterday, a nook arrived with a black seal. I thought of the time we waved from the platforms. In the city, we look back to now in a softer light. In another time, in another city, I found myself between the parallel avenues of arrival and departures. If you glide back summer by summer, your whole life will unfurl like a scroll. I came home to climb the stone ladder of childhood, but when I got to the top, I was lost once more. Things happened suddenly, like a hand shot out in the dark. And here we are, start looking for all the others. So I just have two more poems for today, and they are from my book, Fending in October. And here is the poem I didn't. The poem I didn't write sits like an old coin in my coat pocket, one I wear winter long, going cross town in early evening when the goal of air fall like nettings and time feels round, feels primitive. I rub my coin to a shine. Suddenly the sun slips. Dark is here. Another beginning. September light breaks on the boughs of trees. Birds fan out on the grass. Once more, the moment returns, a moment that does not reject the world. You are on a trail studying its tricolor marks. You travel light, mindful of stones and stakes. Houses you left behind do not wait for you. You are free of lineage and club memberships. You think not of countries, but rivers, parks, and city streets, blue evenings behind the bridge. There's a Parker in your rucksack for cold spells, though there are winters you can never prepare for. There's a book of poems about an immortal swimming pool. Gore-Tex and dog-eared, live and learn. You think snow has no citizenship and pain is not art. If a gaze is as vast as love, as past and vision, it can hold the world and the world's wreckage. At night, when the stars spider out, you welcome your lawless dreams. You are ready to believe the self is at once forgettable and everything there is. You are hardly the victim, though you suffered. September light breaks on the bough of trees. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was a beautiful set of poems. I'm going to find the other bio here. Tim Suermondt's 6 full-length book of poems, A Donut and the Great Beauty of the World, came out in 2023 from Mad Hat Press. New York Quarterly Books will publish his latest collection, Spring Training in Paris, in 2024. He is published in Poetry, Plowshares, Prairie Schooner, The Georgia Review, Belleville Literary Review, Stand Magazine, Smartish Pace, Barrow Street, Poet Lore, and Plume, among many others. He lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, as you already know, with his wife, the poet Pui Ying Wang. And before he starts, feel free, if you have a website, which I couldn't find, please go ahead and post it, information where we can get your books.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I don't think I'm in the 19th century when it comes to that, but thank you. Very gracious of you. Robbi, thank you for having us. It's good to be on the West Coast, even though we're still in Massachusetts. And thanks for all of you for coming out. Looking forward to hearing some of your work after I'm through. I'm just going to start out with a poem. I was thinking just a potpourri of poems. I don't know exactly when to read it. How exactly do you want to read from a book, this book, or just a compilation? And so I just came up with this, and I'll start out. The first poem is titled Passy, and Passy is a community in Paris along the Seine, a stone's throw from the Eiffel Tower. And Pui and I have a standing joke that says that we know Paris. We've been there so many times, we know Paris better than we do Boston. Passy. I buy an ice cream and go back into the park for the first time in many, many years. Everything has changed and nothing has. A most interesting phenomenon. An old man helps an even older man to walk. A young couple are mesmerized by each other. And there I am, a boy carrying a stack of books. What on earth was I thinking? But history has yet to figure out what to do with me. So there's hope for a surprise. Maybe in a decade where miniature stars drop on rooftops on their way to falling around my feet, and all I can do is look up in wonder. And this is the title of the title poem of one of my manuscripts called Where They Are. The sun is out early, a soft blaze. A cooling breeze accompanying it has made sure of that, and I want to be outside with my friends who are gone. But this poem can't conjure such magic. I decided to have lunch in the courtyard, surrounded by new buildings rising. A few old ones resurrected to modern standards. The paint was blue on the sky's canvas. If only I had the talent to put the brush to such use. On my walk later in the park, a green balloon attached to a short string is tangled in the branches of a tree. It breaks free and floats off to the river, with me following behind, trying to keep up, reaching for the string as if it were possible. And we have a couple in Switzerland who took us up to the Swiss Alps, which was really something. And the title of the poem is called "The Swiss Alps," and it's for our friend Beat. And unfortunately, he passed away, so this has become sort of an elegy. The Swiss Alps for Beat. A man stands on the mountaintop, looking around, layers of sky above his town. A man promises his wife he'll purchase a better house by the lake, aware she really doesn't care what house it is, as long as they live in it together. A man has a pizza and a pitcher of beer, keeping his friends enthralled with stories of faraway exploits. A man loses his glasses, finds them, and starts to take videos again. There's many home movies yet to show. A man rubs sunlight on his hands, wishing he could do his heart likewise. A man says to himself, remember me, counting on everyone else to have heard. Yang Kue Fei. She was beautiful and popular in the 8th century, and still commented on in the 21st. I wish to be remembered for thousands of years after I've had my initial run. I'm not beautiful, not popular, but I was on Earth, drinking and riding like Li Po. The only difference waiting for the moon to reach out to me. Hotel Odessa. On my first morning in Paris, I paused at my apartment window, holding a croissant and a mug of coffee, and watching people go in and out of the hotel's entrance, convinced each one of them was a spy, good and bad. How the imagination of youth still clings at the age we should know better. Minutes later, I got fully clothed and made my way to the hotel's small lobby, hoping a man with a pronounced scar or a woman whose beauty is timeless would show me a folder and say, you must get this to the American embassy in Prague by midnight. The impossibility and danger of the task making it divine. But I wound up sitting on a velvet chair, retying a shoelace, playing back in my mind the chance I might have had of saving some, perhaps all of the world. And when I left, I looked both ways down the street. We all move on, somehow. Francis tells me he's closing down the hardware store. After 25 years, the last 5 with me as a customer. Just don't have enough to go on. Can I still buy a big wrench set today, I say, trying a little positivity. Buy 3, he says, and I'll kiss you on the cheek. I buy 2, and he still insists on giving me a discount. I thank him, and he thanks me. Sunlight on the cash register. I carry my wrench sets, one under each arm, thinking I'm set for life, ready to repair anything the world keeps breaking. How can I say? One of the worst days of my life, and I start doing a little dance, or something of the sort, down the sidewalk and onto the street. And everything, and I mean everything, opens before me. I wave to the hardware store where I purchase the flower pots, the sturdy lamp sockets, give a wave as well to the ice cream shop where I thought I'd buy a spectacular spumoni simply because I believe it is a necessity. I can't figure out what kind of grief is on display, and my imagination, usually stellar, is not rising to the occasion. The woman in the summer dress might have a clue, but stopping to ask is impossible. I turn a corner, sliding with the wind, away, away. How can I say if I will ever return? At 3 a.m. in bed, The Tangier that comes to me floats above me like a poem, like the one I wrote for my Muslim friends. The poem lost along with so many things. I remember the pockmarked but beautiful street, the cat shrieking like a singer, people heading to the tramp steamers, falling in love again with home, the moon glazing over the hills. This dream as large as a small country. The world becomes bearable. When the dog, shedding its fear of water, jumps into the fountain moat to rescue a child's rubber baseball. When a group of women in cherry black dresses spread out a tricolored picnic basket underneath an old oak. When lovers pop up like magic, reminding you why you wave love's banner as the answer to every question. When the sun rises and sets, in between no politician does anything dreadful, and your notebook lives with possibilities again. When the night is so quiet, you can hear the angels around your bed whispering. A big book, 900 pages, yet the man is undaunted, determined to read every page. He props up against his pillow, allowing the rhythms of history to carry him along. The bombings he will be reading about will not touch him here. A mosquito out for blood, buzzing the lamplight, as dangerous as the night will get. When the bull stops fighting, so does the matador. He drapes the cape over the bull and says, "Let's get our wounds cleaned up, old friend." Together they limp out of the arena. The crowd, unable to decide to boo or cheer, does neither. Side by side they travel, the matador and the bull, down an old, long street El Greco could paint with his eyes bandaged over twice. The two shimmer in the heat of the day and disappear, the cape on the ground. The cape a saint shall bless, then destroy. What is heaven but what we leave behind? And I'll read just 3 more poems. I've always been reluctant and gone out of the way not to overly write what I call parentism, the poems about parents and the family and whatnot. Unfortunately, you can't always get away, and sometimes it's not as bad as you may have thought. This is called "It Only Happened Once," but it stays with me still. My father and I racing down the street sidewalk, somehow not plowing into people along the way. Absolute silliness from a man and a boy. Nothing in the universe could have been better. Nothing. I wish I hadn't waited until it was too late to tell him how lucky we were. And I will end with this. And since it did happen to me, I hope it happens to Robbi and Pui and all of you who write. I win the Nobel Prize. Immediately after I get the word, I take a walk in the neighborhood, doing nothing out of the ordinary. He's probably headed for the grocery store, some will say, if they say anything about me at all. But I can't help stopping a man and asking him what he thinks of the Nobel Prize. "What's Nobel again?" he says, and I thank him and walked on. He's put everything in perspective. Yes, I did win the Nobel Prize. A miracle. But I should pick up a few items, a loaf of bread, a quart of milk, for sure, since I'm already going in that direction. I think it will.
Wow, are you done? Thank you.
Thank you.
That was delightful, and what a great way to end. And thank you both to our wonderful readers, who are certainly a poetry power couple. And we now have some people at the open mic. And again, it's 2 poems or 5 minutes, whichever comes first. And we're going to start today with Marc Petrie.
Thank you, Robbi. I received some exciting news. One of my poems is going to be posted on a trail in one of my favorite hiking areas, Peters Canyon. And so I'm going to read that poem. It's called Peters Canyon, March 2020. I walked this canyon for 25 years. Water once filled the reservoir, irrigated citrus orchards, attracted birds, tricolored blackbirds with vibrant orange stripes, hummingbirds, egrets, and herons, hawks, and the occasional eagle, migratory ducks and geese. In March 1995, a naturalist pointed out a western blue jay through binoculars. I saw bright blue memories of mountain hikes and an eastern childhood. Elated, I almost stepped on a snake who slithered across the trail as startled as me. A plaque near the crest of the hill, the far side of the lake, dedicated to the drought, explains how climate change dried the waters. Along with the waterfall, fowl, and the blackbirds, I haven't seen a hawk circling for years. Not since the fire raced up the dry canyon, wiped out the willows where birds nested. 25 years. My son will never know this park the way I knew it. Water tapping the edge of the muddy trail, a seep hidden in a tower lower canyon where frogs provided their cadence. He patiently waits for me to shut up. He has never seen a blue jay in Orange County or stopped to listen to the welcome winter voice of ducks in a pond. He covers his face to escape the rising dust. To him, it's all dried, cracked mud. And this is one I wrote last month. It's called Through the Sunroof of a 1997 Acura Integra at a Stoplight. Patchwork clouds announce autumn this late summer morning. In a sky more cornflower blue than cerulean, clamshell gray tufts floating through the celestial sea, an ever-changing chapel, lazily lovely approaching equinox, a time when a person can be lulled into believing the long days will last forever, though the Northern Hemisphere calendar tells us it's closer to September than to June, which already passed us by. Two feathery ivory fingers drift close to each other in the firmament, their edges soft as the skin on an infant's hand never touches. The grease scale alerts the heavens, the clouds will burn away. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations on having your poem up on the trail. I'll look for it if I ever get out there.
I'll
Our
do a reading
next-
there, Robbi.
Oh, great. Watch out for snakes. Our next reader is Marietta, who's new to us. Welcome, Marietta.
Hello, I have two poems for reading. My first poem is published in Dissident Voice, entitled 10 Poem for the Sound. Remembering things is challenging. The garbage of the self, playing piano, tears like blood drops in the yelling rain. The sound is only the perception of the brain. Twisted vibration for its own conversion. The raindrops fall on all the free flowers. The mistral cannot blow the sufferings or feelings. A falling petal can tint a tone poem. Secret graves, gravely hidden errors, erratic glaciers, cloudy windows, and homeless workers. To gaze at the coming sun on gloomy mornings, a mental eye having a bias against heaven, hail. a dance of raindrops in the light and fireworks in the night, rhythmic echoes. The blowing wind can bust the blue and downhearted life up in chaos. The harsh light of the wars, plants and animals bleeding and kneeling, folks as living rocks, rockeries in gardens, to have a sense of belonging and the language of longing. The women in the temples singing holy hymns, listening to their own voices. The winds and the spirits are inconspicuous, stillness, strength. Heaven is higher than the rain. The noise made by a jet fighter can speed up the breaking windows, the withering flowers, the altering dreams, and the crumbling churches. This noise can resemble the Mistral, eons of weathering. In the mist, the unfleshly souls climb up the serene mountains before metamorphosing. And my second poem is published in Lothlorien Journal, and it is entitled Still Living. There is a remaining time before death. 'Tis nothing but aging, breath of the memories in the brittle air, not yet frozen, feather armors of the paired birds in a flight for foraging when love needs seeds of life. Cloudy high sky in the fall when life loses light. Needs not to be hectic, maybe a little bit hedonic. Skeptical folks are still not willing to act, but to go within and find their stillness. Maybe they search for what makes sense to fall in with it, or maybe not. Seeking armors, a self-awareness regarding passing or disappearance. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks very much for coming, and we hope you'll come back again. That was lovely.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Martin Levine.
The first poem I'd like to read is called Hamlet and the Secret Police. By night, I'm summoned to the battlements to get a secret message from a ghost, a cackling ghost who swears me on a sword. The smiling villain has men everywhere. My college buddies play me like a flute. I thought that I could trust Ophelia. She used to love me. Now I'm not so sure. So to a nunnery with her. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Now I'm thrown into a boat, bound for my doom. I trick them, turn the tables. I've convinced them I am mad, am I? And who will disappear? Will I? Will they? And now I'd like to read a poem called Solving God. And it starts with an epigraph from the novel Trust by Hernan Diaz. And the epigraph is, God is the most uninteresting answer to the most interesting questions. Here's the poem. As a boy, I agonized with God. When the congregation read the prayers, I tried to read between the prayers, like trying to open my eyes gently at the end of a dream so that wisps of dreams still cling to the world. I thought if I tried hard enough, I could see beyond the visible spectrum of light, discern the sounds only dogs and bats could hear. I thought I could solve the ancient geometric problem of trisecting the angle with only a compass and a straight edge, until my father told me the problem was not unsolved, but insoluble, My father never told me God was insoluble, so I tried to solve God. Not like a cheating Kabbalist who wants to find the hidden levers of power, but to find God's vulnerable side, not to stick a dagger in it, but to hug it close. And one day, the gears seemed to ratchet together. The beams of light seemed to converge on a single point. I thought I had solved God, and I didn't care. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Welcome, and we hope you come back again. David Oliveira.
Thank you, Robbi, and thank you to the readers. It was very inspiring reading. I have two poems. This first one is called How It Is Here. Someone asks about weather, common question, not unexpected. Here, it's the throes of the rainy season, but it's also morning and hours away from any rain. An easy breeze ripples through trees. Thursday is high clouds and welcome cool shade. Because rains come each day, landscapes dress in 100 hues of green. Everything that blooms, blooms. After midsummer's day, hot temperatures soften. Life takes a breath. Sure, sometimes parts of the year invite heated complaint. Just like a quick turn of seasons, weather can be tough. Later, when rain comes, you go outside to walk in it, reveling in sky's blessing, in earth's endless largesse. The kindness of being here does not come cheap. It requires sacrifices on behalf of those for whom you care, and beneficence to those you meet on the uneven road ahead. The ultimate price exacted is the body. You know rough seasons. It's not possible to be human and not be scarred by lashes and cuts to one's fragile flesh. Each person arrives to where they come, at first oblivious. That place turns out to be loved or hated or roundly ignored, depending on experiences, disposition, and inclination for travel. In whatever place a person settles, well-being requires others, something that must be pursued with blinded optimism, oblivious of the odds for snowballs in sultry weather. This poem is called My Turn. When everything is still, silence becomes a word. Words become cobbles. Enough cobbles build a road from Armona to Santa Barbara, from California to Phnom Penh, from where any person stands to where they will go. I've been here long enough to see lots of humanity pass. Some pass expectations, some pass expiration dates, some watch parades pass. I'm here long enough not to lose it on short-term trepidations over long-term prospects. Humanity is a big idea, and big ideas are slow walkers, graceful titans of the savannah, ambling from here to here. Humans get less than a moment before rust sets in. It's been like this a long time, and likely to stay this way for all time. All time, not meaning eternity, only the days that are left. I sit here this morning with nothing new to say. What else is new? It's all been said before, more eloquently, more memorably than anything I can conjure. Irregardless, it's my turn. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Rose.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. I live in Lima, Peru, and I'm reading you two poems from my book, Saudade. I have read this one before, and if you've heard it before, do forgive me. This is about a Portuguese word that really has no translation, no direct translation in any other language I know. So I've tried to write a poem about what is saudade. A moment that passed like a paler shade of spring, like the knowledge of an inevitability, the vague promise of repeat, the echo of something which never was, a butterfly wing that may have brushed your cheek, dreaming of indolence, expecting the first rains on dry fields, not quite hearing the last lark before the autumn winds, the first smell of snow, the never-ending final summer dance, softest touch of his hand on yours, the death of an infatuation, your evanescent youth, a strange bliss in your longing, fear of fulfillment, praying for the becalmed sea of inertia, celebration of absence. You carry a sharp, merciless switchblade made of stainless grief. And the second one is a poem about my first visit to Israel, and I'm German born. A pilgrimage. In Rosh Hanikra, I look across to Lebanon. Below me is the sea. I pick up a stone and let it bounce against the rocks. The Sea of Galilee cuts me with contrition. I want to atone for sins to which I feel fettered by blood. The Jordan washes the dusty crust of the Negev from my skin. The Dead Sea lifts my burden. Haifa receives me in a language I understand. Bethlehem's brittle alliances don't inspire. My friend rejects the kippah and holds my hand. And Yom Rishon is the first day. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose. Ron?
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna do one. This is from one of my books, Hungry Words. And it is a Fibonacci. It's called Havana Moon, and it's based on the song Havana Moon by Chuck Berry. We both under Havana's smiling cherry moon fibbed to each other's anxious selves as we bent against the time and tide that soon ran out before we could realize that maybe, just maybe, this was the real truth we pined for. Thank you and have a pleasant day.
Thank you. You've introduced me to a new form. So thanks very much. I'll look it up. Our next to last reader is our estimable editor, Jim Lewis.
Thank you. I'm going to read two fairly short poems. The first one was written in response to a suggestion of writing poems about telling the future. It's called Read the Leaves, Turn the Page. Not being a tea drinker myself, I've never seen firsthand the results of the brewing that might let leaves collect unstrained at the bottom of a porcelain cup. What might it mean for one larger leaf to lie diagonally across two smaller ones? Or for a leaf and broken stem to cling to the cup's side, resisting the swirl, the swish? I'm sure I could imagine 100 prophecies, prosperity or poverty, love found, love lost, and maybe some of them would signify my future. But knowing me, I'd more likely just set the cup down, turn the page in the latest novel that grips me, and let all my little choices predict my ending. And the second poem is a poem about music and other things. It's called Diminished, Augmented. When he starts talking music theory, eyes will glaze over, minds will wander. Maybe a few in the room will nod, fingers poised over imaginary keys. Until the speaker stops talking about tonics, subs, and dominants, moves past trying to explain why and how you take away or add to a chord, sits confidently at the piano and plays not some well-known standard jazz, but a church hymn, for crying out loud, the old familiar chords enhanced, transformed, and infused with new spirit. And the room is quiet with awe, understanding what it means to be less, to be more, to be an essential part of the music. Someone starts drumming on a desk. An alto joins in, a sultry, sexy sizzle. We weren't expecting a sermon, but brother, isn't it wonderful how jazz can preach?
Love that one. Thank you very much, Jim. Well, I've had a few things published. Finally, they've come out after waiting for a while. So I'll read a couple of those by Marc's request. Let's see, find it for you. Boredom. In the living room, all that long, hot August, I whirled the carpet's rings of roses till the beige walls and ceilings tipped and wobbled. The fat brown armchair leered, tufts of stuffing hanging from its arms. The morning stretched before me, and half a dozen books yawned open on the table. I almost wished to be in school, though I'd been sure in June that whatever lay ahead would be better than those sweaty rooms smelling of paste and chalks. My friends were on vacation with their families at summer camp, leaving me to ride my bike up the avenue, watch a cabbage white light on the clover as waves of heat rose off the pavement. Desire hung heavy over everything. These are the days that I remember now, dew on the spider's web, fat black clouds, the flash of dry lightning illuminating the sky. And one more. Down the shore. I'm from Philadelphia, and if you grew up anywhere near there, you'll probably recognize that. Down the shore. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I am back again in childhood, traveling to Atlantic City with my parents, escaping Philadelphia's summer humidity and heat. I'm 6 or 10 or 15, but always in my father's snub-nosed Chevy, like a saddle shoe, turquoise and black, though it can't have lasted quite that long. We'd cross the bridge, hot and impatient, an hour in a car without air conditioner, My mother wouldn't let us roll the windows down. She tied the kerchief tight under her chin, but her hair flew anyhow. It was a straight run down I-95, no nonsense. I preferred to watch the sky, wires lined with pairs of tennis shoes, fields of clouds, the heads of ladies of the beauty parlor, bouffant or wispy, curled into white and silver mounds. When we got close, skies would, you know what? I think this is the wrong version of the poem. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop because it's way long and it isn't the one that got published the other day. So I'm sorry. Excuse me.
I have something for you, Robbi.
Okay, thank you.
Cabbage White on alfalfa.
Yes. Oh, yes, there he is. I tried to download the one that was published, but it was too complicated for me in my hurry to manage. So excuse me for stopping in the middle. It's about half the length of that version. And it's better. So I urge you to have a look at it in One Art. It was published a couple of days ago. All right, so thank you everybody for being here. And I am going to turn off the recording. And if you want to chat, that'd be great. So